So the big fight is right around the corner now. Carl Froch versus George Groves. The rematch is just a couple of hours away. I want to hear from you guys. Who are you picking in this fight? Now, it's easy to just randomly come out for a boxing match and pick a winner because at the end of the day, there's only two contestants. So you've got a 50-50 chance of predicting any fight correctly if you're just picking a winner. That's easy. That don't mean you know anything about boxing. A blind grandmother who's never watched boxing in her life could get the prediction for Froch Groves correct. That don't mean that you know boxing. Okay, so what I want to hear from you guys is how you see the fight playing out. Not just who you think is going to win. How you see the fight playing out. And obviously, the people who can accurately predict how the fight ends up playing out are the ones who had a good understanding of both of these fighters and etc, etc. Now, people are very, very split over this fight in terms of who they think is going to win. And I'm not talking about the fanboys. You know, there's always fanatical Groves fans and fanatical Froch fans. I'm not talking about them. I'm talking about the majority of people who are subscribed to my channel, for example, who are hardcore boxing fans, and they are analytical boxing fans. They don't predict with their hearts, they predict with their heads for the most part, my subscribers. So these are the people I'm talking about. You guys, I want to hear from you a detailed assessment of how you see the fight playing out, the ebbs and flows and whatnot. Very interested to hear your predictions. Now, as far as my prediction, I'm with a lot of people in the sense that I haven't really had a clear idea in my head who's going to win this fight. I really have not had a clear idea, and I was very, very close to just coming out and saying, you know what, I'm sitting on the fence for this fight. I can't predict a winner. I can't predict a winner. And trust me, I'm very close to doing that because many people have said this, and I'll say it as well, but no outcome would surprise me in this fight. I swear down. And you know me, when I feel strongly about a certain fighter is going to win a fight, I come out and pick it strongly. I don't dilly-dally, this, that, and the other. If I have a strong feeling about this guy's going to win, I'll tell you. But with this fight here, I just don't have a strong feeling about who's going to win. I really don't. But I think George Groves, I mean, for example, let's just take you through my thought process and some of the problems I'm contending with. Now, we know that George Groves is faster than Froch. He's younger. He's more versatile. He's more talented. The one thing he is not, though, is he's not as seasoned as Carl Froch. He's not as experienced over 12 rounds. I don't think he's as tough as Carl Froch. I'm not just talking about punch resistance. I'm just talking about the ability to absorb punishment in general. Body shots, shots on the arms, and to come through a tough, grueling fight and pour it on at the end. Whereas Carl Froch has done that many times. We saw him do that famously against Jermaine Taylor, where he was getting beaten up pretty much in that fight and embarrassed, and then came out in the 12th round, all guns blazing, and managed to stop Jermaine Taylor. So Froch has got a history of doing this kind of stuff, right? I don't think Groves has got it in him to be able to do what Carl Froch can do. And certainly in the latter rounds of the first fight, George Groves was wilting. Now, these are the questions I have. That knockdown that Carl Froch suffered in the first fight, in the first round, how much did that knockdown affect his performances in the middle, his performance in the middle rounds? If that knockdown hadn't occurred, would Carl Froch have been more competitive in the middle rounds? Did that early knockdown of Froch flatter Groves' performance in the middle rounds? Or was it that Groves was that good? You know, who knows? These are the questions I'm contending with in my head. Has George Groves lost the element of surprise? David Hayes seems to think that Groves pretty much has lost the element of surprise. And David Hayes knows Groves very, very well. Better than most people in boxing. This guy has been in sparring, you know, seen Groves sparring hundreds of rounds in the gym, behind closed doors, stuff that we've never seen. And he believes Groves has lost the element of surprise and therefore cannot knock out Carl Froch in this fight. That's the one thing that David Hayes said. He said, the one outcome that I totally rule out in this fight is George Groves knocking out Carl Froch. He can't see that happening. He says he thinks that Froch is expecting it now. He knows how hard Groves hits. He knows the angles he throws his shots from. And he can't see George Groves stopping Carl Froch second time out. I think you should pay attention when David Hayes says something like that. He knows both fighters very well, actually. So, yeah, he thinks that Groves has lost the element of surprise. Also, Ian Lewison was interviewed by Ingram Jones. And he also thinks that Groves has lost the element of surprise. A lot of people, boxers and trainers, they're also saying this. And I think it's definitely a valid point. And I agree for the most part. I think George Groves has lost the element of surprise. I think Carl Froch would be a lot more wary and a lot more cagey in the rematch. He knows what to expect. Definitely, Carl Froch can't learn anything in terms of skills. He can't learn anything new in terms of skills. No, he's going to be the same Carl Froch. He can't be any better in terms of his skills or his speed or athleticism or reflexes. He's not going to be better in terms of any of that. But he can improve and he can be better, or he can at least fight differently from a tactical point of view. You know, he can improve his tactics for the rematch. He doesn't have to improve his skills. He can improve his tactics. And I think tactically, he'll fight a better fight this time around. I think he'll definitely fight a better fight this time around. I'm convinced of that. Whether that's going to be enough to win him the fight, that's a whole other story. But I think he's going to fight better tactically. And I think the early rounds of this fight are going to be cagey. Very cagey. And I don't think the fight is really going to catch fire until the mid to late rounds. I don't think we're going to see the dramatic stuff we saw in the first fight early on in the fight. I don't think so. I could be wrong. I mean, like I've just said earlier in the video, no outcome in this fight would shock me. But I'm here to make a prediction, and I'm just here to tell you what I think is the most likely outcome. I wouldn't put any money on this. I'm not confident in it at all. I think these two guys are very, very evenly matched at this point. But I see it being cagey early on. But I don't see Groves having it all his own way from distance. I think Carl Froch's jab will be more effective than it was in the first fight. And as the fight progresses, I think there's going to be a bit of pressure on both fighters really to do something significant, because both of them are going to realize it's a close fight. Neither one of them wants this fight to slip out of their hands. Froch don't want to lose his titles. Groves don't want to have another loss in his record. So I think as it gets to the mid to late rounds, when both fighters are feeling the pressure of the occasion and both know they've got to do something significant to win the fight, I think that's when it's going to catch a fire, and that's when we could see something dramatic happening, including a knockout. So who do I think is going to win? I really don't know. I really don't know. But for some reason, I'm going to go with what David Price said, right? David Price is a guy who came out and made a prediction for this fight several weeks ago, and he took George Groves to win the fight on points, and that's what I'm going to go with. I'm not confident in it, very tentative, but you know, Groves, when this fight was first announced, even before it was first announced, I was more leaning towards Froch, because I thought that Groves was underestimating Froch. I thought Groves was almost delusional in the way that he was viewing Carl Froch and the way that he was looking at the first fight. I think he was really underselling the success that Froch had in the first fight. But I've changed my mind in this past week, and the reason why is because I've heard a lot more from Paddy Fitzpatrick and from George Groves. And I've heard enough from them, especially Paddy Fitzpatrick, to convince me that they're not underestimating Carl Froch at all, and that they know they made mistakes in the first fight. And after hearing that, it's kind of reassured me that, nah, these guys are going to get it right tactically. Again, even if they get it perfect tactically, it doesn't mean they're going to win the fight. You know, you have to be the better fighter at the end of the day. So, we'll see how it goes, but I'm going to take George Groves to win this fight on points. And there's going to be some rough moments in the fight for George Groves, I think, especially in the later rounds. I think there'll be some rough moments, but I think I'm predicting they will come through. I don't know if the prediction is going to be right or not, but I'm predicting he'll come through and take a close points decision over Carl Froch. I know it might even be a situation where the majority of people think George Groves won the fight on points, but maybe it gets given a draw, or maybe it goes to Carl Froch. I know that would be horrific for George Groves, but in a nip and tuck fight, in a fight where there's a lot of close rounds early on and it's very cagey, the crowd can influence the judges, and you know, all kinds of things can influence the judges, especially a massive occasion like this at Wembley, 80,000 people, so much passion. It's going to be very, very difficult for the judges to stay impartial amidst that type of atmosphere. So, you know, even a Carl Froch victory on points would have surprised me, given what I just said. But yeah, I'm going to go with George Groves to win the fight on points. Drop your comments below. How do you see the fight transpiring? Again, I don't just want you to pick a winner. Yeah, anyone can do that. I want you to give a detailed assessment and breakdown of how you see the fight playing out. Alright, so drop your comments below. Enjoy the fight. This is Hatman. I'm out.